Okay, I call to order the Lynchburg Planning Commission meeting for Wednesday, February 25th, 2026. First order of business is the approval of our minutes from January 28th. Has everybody had a chance to look over them? Any changes or suggestions?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay, motion approved, a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Great. We'll now be hearing petitions open to public comment. Petitioners or their representatives will be given 10 minutes to present their petition. Subsequent individual citizens wishing to speak will be allowed a maximum of 3 minutes each, and representatives of an opposition group will be allowed a maximum of 10 minutes. At the end of the public hearing, there will be an allowance of 3 minutes for rebuttals. And our next order of business is to hold a public hearing on the petition of Miller Home for Girls for conditional use permit in an R2 low to medium density residential district to allow group home for up to 8 children at 271 Riverside Drive. The group home would be located in the existing residential dwelling.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of Planning Commission. As stated, this property is zoned R2 low medium density residential. In this district, large group homes are permitted upon approval of a conditional use permit from City Council. Our future land use map recommends low density residential use for the subject property. These areas are dominated by single family detached housing, and in addition to residential uses, they may include public and institutional uses compatible in scale with single family residential homes. The subject property consists of approximately 1/3 of an acre located at 271 Riverside Drive. The property is a 2-story structure with attached garage constructed in 2025 and is approximately 3,000 square feet. Miller Home is currently using this property as proposed by the CUP with, I believe it's 5 girls. To give some context on how that came about, in September of 2025, I apologize, that text is really small, but in September of 2025, Miller Home staff consulted with the zoning division and were advised that the subject property was appropriate for use as a group home for up to 8 children. And based on that information, Miller Home proceeded with relocating from their previous much larger facility and completed all their necessary Department of Social Services approvals. Later on, concerns from the neighborhood were received by our department. Upon further review of city and state code, staff determined that a conditional use permit should be required for more than 4 children at this location. I want to reiterate that Miller Home followed the appropriate process. They consulted with zoning staff about this prior to their use of the property and were told it was permitted. Staff was incorrect. So they did not bypass or attempt to circumvent any city process. And I just want to make sure that's known by both the commission as well as the neighborhood. On January 12th, the Miller Home was notified by staff that a CUP was needed, and subsequently they have submitted this petition before you today. In your report that was sent out last week, planning staff had recommended some conditions regarding this CUP being non-transferable and only applicable to Miller Home specifically. And something I want to make the commission also aware of is that yesterday, the Board of Zoning Appeals, which is a court-appointed board, they heard an unrelated appeal for a group home for up to 8 individuals recovering from substance abuse. And the BZA ruled that this is considered a by right use based on the Fair Housing Act because it is a protected class because they are recovering individuals. That is considered a disability. So therefore, the recommended conditions would not prevent a by right group home for protected classes. I want to make it clear because BZA made that ruling that a recovery home for 8 individuals is by right, therefore a facility for a protected class such as that could be located in any single family residence, anywhere in this neighborhood or other neighborhoods. So whether a CUP is issued here for Miller Home or not, that has no effect on whether a protected class group home could later go here. Because the BZA has decided that they're permitted in single family homes, period. So that being said, we are here today to focus on the petition at hand, and that is Miller Home's use of 271 Riverside as a group home for 8 girls up to age 21. And in summary, the use of the existing structure as a large group home should have limited impact on the surrounding area. There are no major exterior renovations proposed. or additions, and the Planning Division recommends approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Who's here to speak on behalf of the petition? Great. If you could please come forward, state your name, sign on the form, and tell us about what you all are proposing.
Okay. Good afternoon. My name is Morgan Kane Ryan, and I currently serve as the Executive Director of Miller Home for Girls. For nearly 150 years, Miller Home has served as a place of safety and stability for young women in need in Lynchburg and the surrounding areas. Miller Home's not simply a residence. It's a supportive environment where healing happens, accountability is practiced, and hope is restored. The young women we serve are not statistics. They're daughters, they're students, they're future employers, and hopefully future leaders in Lynchburg. I've seen girls in our program come through and become caring, active members of their community, and I hope that we can continue cultivating kindness, compassion, and teaching each girl who comes through the program how to be a good neighbor no matter where life takes her. Part of being a good neighbor is listening to concerns of those around you. And if anyone leaves this meeting and has questions about who Miller Home is or what we do, we welcome them. We want to hear feedback. We want to be a part of the community that we've been a part of for 150 years. It's our sincere hope to continue serving girls from the Lynchburg area and surrounding areas for many years to come and continue the legacy of Samuel Miller that was started 150 years ago. Granting the CUP allows us to continue providing a home and opportunities to young women who are in need and continue changing lives one girl at a time. Thank you all for your time and for your service to the city and thoughtful consideration of this.
Thank you. Is there anybody here to speak in favor of the petition? Okay. Anybody here to speak in opposition to the petition? All right, so if you would please come forward one at a time, state your name, sign in, and we will hear you.
Am I supposed to sign this? Good afternoon, Chairman Rogers and members of the Planning Commission. My name is Carla Hamilton, and I am the owner of 275-279 Riverside Drive, Lynchburg, Virginia. I am here concerning the commercial use of 271 Riverside Drive in the residential area zone R2 low medium density. I commend the Miller Home for what they have done, is doing, and will do for young ladies, no matter where they operate their business. The overarching issue is that contractors and real estate companies are intentionally or unintentionally trying to invalidate the home sweet home fabric of our neighborhood, where the homeowner or the homeowner and their family live in the home. On my block, 2 houses have recently been converted into long-term rentals, and 271 is now being tentatively used as a commercial business. This has made us the original investors of the Riverwood subdivision in the Bluffs, who love our neighborhood, uncomfortable and concerned about perception and setting a precedent, again, setting a precedent for other companies to apply to put their companies within the Bluffs and the Riverwood subdivisions. When researching the administrative codes for private and government roof homes, 22 VAC 4151, etc., it seems that 271 may not be a good fit for 8 clients. 1 bedroom and 1 bathroom has to be for staff, and clients are not to use either one. 1 room has to be for confidential meetings with clients and other resources. Staff have to have an office where confidential papers are locked. Designated areas must be assigned for age-appropriate play. Bedrooms must have doors, egress, and proper storage for each client. Question: does 271 Riverside Drive have a certificate of occupancy from local and state fire departments? Observation: one of the administrative codes states hall lights must stay on at night and outside lighting must be on at exits and driveways. Usually the property is completely dark inside and outside at night, which would make egress in an emergency situation very difficult. Parking has been an issue. There are at times 9 and 10 cars. This includes the 3 cars that they own. These cars are parked in a small driveway and on the street. Administrative Code BAC 2790-670 says that the ratio for adults to children for private and group homes is 1:10. Currently, there are 5 clients, 3 clients are adults. No one expects the working staff number to be low as 1 except at night. But it does mean that fine-tuning the schedule, especially when youngsters are at school, would help with the car issue. There is no parking lot. The driveway is small, and the alley across the street is a no parking zone. So events and meetings with your board would have to happen at another location. In conclusion, our major concern is that it is setting a precedent. Other concerns are, is the house really suitable for 8 children with a room and a bathroom being designated for staff, and the clients cannot use those spaces? Has the house received a certificate of occupancy? Will lighting inside and out be used as required at night, as written in the Virginia Administrative Code? We are the original investors of the Riverwood and the Bluffs. We want you to listen to our voices in this decision. Our homes and our quality of life is important. We're not secondary, we're primary. Please recognize our concerns.
Thank you.
I hope that you have received the email from Monday that had the Riverside Neighborhood Survey in an email from Rachel, because I will mention a couple things about that, though I won't go through it line by line. Good afternoon, committee members. My name is Carolyn Wicks. Like Carla, I'm a resident of Riverside Drive. And as you already know, a CUP will always be complex, but this one is particularly complex because we're talking about the lives of girls. And one of the things I hope you noticed in our neighborhood survey is the tremendous caring that Riverside Drive has, not only for the people that are there, but we have tremendous building going on in our neighborhood, as does much of Lynchburg. And we really care about the people that will join us in the big family that we call Riverside Drive. So this CUP that's before you this afternoon is not a matter of just crossing T's and dotting I's and trying to fix the mistakes that are naturally going to happen in a process like this, in an organization like this, a helping field. But what we're hoping to say as the opposition, as neighbors, is sense our heart of caring. You saw that in the email that was given to you by Rachel. We spent a lot of time and effort as a neighborhood trying to play catch up. We didn't know this was happening until we saw institutionalized vans coming through our neighborhood, since we're all out doing gardening, yakking, and whatever. And we're like, where's this coming from? And then Carla helped us to understand, since she lives right next to this, okay, this is happening. And then calling Tom Martin and working with Rachel. And we had to play catch up as a neighborhood and find out what in the world is going on. And we weren't even given the chance to support this. We still don't have brochures. Nobody knows what's going on. It's been left up to the community to fund, to find out, put a flyer together. You saw that flyer in the email, put the survey together, walk the streets, make sure everybody had a voice, because let's face it, planning meetings at 4:00 on a Wednesday afternoon, everybody's working. And so it was very vital for our residents to forward this to you, sign it, and also the qualitative information, why people did what they did, why they said yes, why they said no. Based on this latest information we find out this afternoon about the Board of Zoning Appeals speaks right to what the people who said yes were afraid of in saying yes. I mean, they kind of danced around and said, you know, I'm saying yes, but if we can't just pare it down to a CUP just for Miller Home, I'm against it. And this is the reason why. Because although I understand the Fair Housing Act, I'm wondering how it's fair to those of us that are there. I understand we're trying to be fair to, in this particular other case, people of substance abuse, but when we don't know about any of these things and we're playing catch up, how is that fair to the historic residents of a district? And so one of my main focuses is to talk about that caring and offer a different perspective. You have the exact votes of the residents of Riverside Drive. But I want to share with you perhaps a different perspective that would make you vote no on the CPU this afternoon. Mistakes were made in the professional advice that were given to Miller Home. You know what those are, and the misdirections that they had. And we recognize that people are human, so we're not focusing on that point. But this means for several months, Miller Home has been conducting full institutional work in our neighborhood without the CUP. So we've lived what you're about to decide on for all these months. So we're able to say how we feel as residents and recommend that Miller Home take a different tact and you support them in a different way than saying yes. And here's what we're saying. When you vote in a few minutes, my neighbors and I are asking you to consider the findings of our survey. 67% of the neighborhood participants are asking you to stop the CUP, and here's why. By voting no on the CUP, you are giving Miller Home an opportunity, an important one, to sell their home on Riverside Drive and reinvest that $500,000 in an institutional compatible property. That's what Carla's saying in sum. This is not an institutionally compatible property without more money being spent on their part and changing the character of the home in the future. They may not be doing it now, but you know they will. Another thing is they could house more clients in a different property, in a different space, in a mixed-use corridor of Lynchburg, where their clients will be closer to the services and the shopping that these young adults really want. This committee is instrumental in the renewal of downtown. You guys have made it possible that we have a renewal of our restaurants and our amphitheater and all the great things happening downtown. And yet, here we are this afternoon talking about taking 8 girls, taking them away from the center part of Lynchburg and putting them on Riverside Drive. How does that make sense to isolate them from the rich connections of sociability here in Lynchburg, here downtown, where they could walk to those sorts of services and things that we love so much? Think of these girls growing up at 271 Riverside Drive, looking at Henry's junk, and I know Mr. Woodson, you were over there talking to Henry, so you know his junk cars and his place there, and they're looking at Carla's driveway on the other side. They don't even have a sidewalk in front of this new home. They have the new home was put in an unimproved and isolated stretch of Riverside Drive. What kind of setting is that for these girls? Frankly, to our Riverside residents, it's sad to see these young adults meandering through our neighborhood on a Friday night when they could be downtown in coffee shops and different social aspects, but they have to travel to those points. It's sad to see them in their institutional conversion van being driven somewhere that they want to be rather than being in the place that we envision as Lynchburg residents as being the center of what could really grow these ladies in ways that would be helpful and social and connected. So all the great things Miller Home wants to do for these girls means that they can do better than Riverside Drive. And so we're asking you, please vote no on the CUP. Give these girls the chance to get reconnected with a thriving social downtown, a hub, if you will, where they're not isolated in 271 Riverside Drive. They don't have to drive their own cars. They don't have to be in their conversion institutional van and be driven somewhere they want to be. They're there. And help Miller Home to do this by saying no, that they can reprioritize and find a bigger building that's in a different setting that's more conducive to what they're trying to do. We appreciate what they're trying to do, but we think it's misplaced. And so we appreciate your help in this matter.
Thank you. there anybody else to speak in opposition of this? Okay, would the presenter of the petition want to rebut any of the comments or speak to them? All right. We have any emails that need to be read? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and close the public hearing, and we can begin deliberation.
Question. What's, as far as visitation goes at Miller Home, what's the definition of a visitor in this case, and when are they allowed to come and that sort of thing?
I'm sorry, I missed the second part.
Yeah, just like, what are the rules for visitors at Miller Home? Who can come, or like, can they be relatives, or are they friends, or how does that work? And when can they come? When do they have to go? Or
Sure.
Yeah.
So anyone who is coming to visit one of the girls in our care, whether that be relative, friend, anything, has to be arranged through either myself or our program director. Most of the time we set that up, especially with relatives or anyone that, could be doing a meeting. We try to do that during office hours, so between 9 to 5, but that's planned days in advance at least. So that way we can make the adjustments that I believe Carla was talking about, of making sure there's room for parking, making
Right.
sure there's space for them to use for confidentiality.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Okay.
I'd be curious about the support. That was a question I had even before Ms. Hamilton came up, is where is space? What is the office and the staff support space like? Is it at that house?
So administrative office, there is an office in the building that I use and that our program director use. We share that space. That's where we can have those confidential meetings. That's where we can, do the administrative side. But then as far as staff, we have one child care worker on staff that stays with the girls 24 hours. So we have a couple in that position, but they have a bedroom that serves as both their residential space according to DSS code, that has a bathroom, it has a bedroom, it has a locked space for confidential documents, for medication, for anything that we need for that coding. But it is their space. They stay there, they rotate shifts, so it's not like we have multiple staff there at one time.
Thanks.
Did Rachel, did the city, the drawings were attached to the packet the city sent out. Did the plan reviewer for the city review the plans and, for that zoning area, and they said it was that zoning district, and said it meets the requirements there for like fire protection or suppression and all that stuff, or?
Yeah, and we did, so when the permits came through, it was reviewed as any other single-family home. We also met with the building plans reviewer to determine whether this would be like a change of use or
Yeah.
something to, cross the threshold into needing fire suppression, and it does not. He verified with the state
Okay.
building code
Yeah.
or board. I'm not sure what the
Sure,
entity
yeah,
is,
I
but
understand.
he verified with the state that that was not necessary, and that it meets the need.
Yeah, okay.
I have a couple of questions. I appreciate, the Miller Home for serving the community for, 150 years. I think that's great, so much needed. I did take the opportunity on 2 days to go out and visit the residents in the area. Concerns that I have, parking, we're looking at the parking there, and concern of the neighbors there too. In the front yard, and I'm just going to give a guesstimate on this, half of the front yard is a concrete driveway. So the question that there, as far as recreation, I think Rachel is 1/3 of an acre. Is that correct? Is that what we're looking at here? Yes. All right. When the Miller Home was at their current location near East Glass High School, do the girls need or recreation? Because I noticed right directly behind the structure there, it just drops right straight off. So do the girls currently, do they go inside and recreation? Now, where are they going to go for recreation in that location there?
Sure. So we've actually gotten creative with that already, just like we did at Westerly Drive, honestly. Some days we actually have, let me back up. So each day there actually is a designated recreation time because we want the girls to be outside. We want them to be active. We don't want them just sitting around and, you know, not wasting their time. We want them to enjoy the sunshine too. So one thing we do is, yeah, we do go for walks in the neighborhood with the condition of we want to be respectful to the neighbors. If they're being loud, we have staff who says, hey, remember to respect your neighbors. But Lynchburg also has a plethora of wonderful park areas, of wonderful places where we can go to within a short span, the girls' favorite being Riverside Park, and they can use that area for recreation as well. So thankfully, even though the yard is smaller, Lynchburg offers a lot of opportunities for them to have recreational spaces.
That being said, that is correct. But the streets are pretty narrow right through there.
Mhm.
Another concern, I think, was mentioned there. Also, there's no sidewalks there. There's sidewalk up the street a little ways, but not in front of the existing area there. I did talk to one of the original owners has been there. His family's been there since next door to you all.
Yes.
Since 1941. And of course, looking at the survey, there's still, a lot of concern among the residents there. Another concern there is, again, with the street and parking, currently using LCS schools, I guess that's correct. I guess it will change, but school buses don't even come down to that area. And I'm not sure where they would actually turn around.
So they don't come down to that area. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you,
No,
but
that's fine.
there is a bus stop that is zoned, maybe not zoned, that might not be the right word, but that is designated by the transportation department for the girls. Because our girls started in Lynchburg City Schools, but are finishing their year out, they were grandfathered in for elementary and middle school. We actually drive them to school at this time, but there is a bus stop, I believe, where Riverside and I can't remember the road off the top of my head, but where that road meets, there's a bus stop that they utilize as well.
So you're saying for recreational purposes?
Oh, no,
this-
not recreational
No.
purposes. I'm
But for
sorry.
recreational purposes, this suffices compared to where you are, the broad space that you have on, is it Westerly Drive
We
now?
were at Westerly, yes.
Yeah. Okay. And Rachel, on the conditional use permit, is that just strictly for this particular company, or can that be, how's that transferred if they should decide to go into business or move to another much larger location in 5 years?
So the condition that we had recommended is that it only apply to Miller Home, and that if the property transfers, that the conditional use permit does not transfer with it. But again, I do want to clarify that if a group home that serves a protected class, such as a sober living house, which is, the one that everyone thinks of, that is protected by FHA and has nothing to do with the CUP. They would not even need a CUP to do something like that in a single family home. That is what the BZA decided yesterday. So regardless of what happens here, that would be considered a by right use for this house and any other house in this neighborhood or any single family house in the city. That is what the BZA has decided based on Fair Housing Act. So yes, while the condition does say it is only for Miller Home, that does not necessarily mean that something else couldn't come in, just like they could go into other facilities. So I just want to make that clear. I don't mean to be deceptive in saying it can only be for Miller Home. There are other instances where a group home can be considered by right that we don't have any control over. But it's not specific to this house, this
Okay.
property, if that makes sense.
Yes.
Would that be part of the reason that that there was that lapse of allowing them to be there? I mean, this is something we've talked. Sorry, we've talked about before. This idea of the group home. So when Miller Home came and they approached and they were given permission to do that, does that have something to do with some of the things we've already talked about with group homes? Is that why that was allowed?
So the zoning administrator is here. I don't know if Kevin, you want to talk about how we were initially looking at it, and then, when we dug further in and found that a CUP should have been required, kind of the difference there. Could you
Yeah.
speak to that?
Yeah, I can elaborate on it. So the state code allows foster care up to 8 residents. That was the mistake I made. I went to state code. State code I knew allowed up to 8. But in our zoning ordinance, it gets a little more specific where there's a limitation. That's where the mistake was made. That I don't think ties into what the Board of Zoning Appeals decided yesterday. What happened yesterday was regarding a recovery home. As Rachel had mentioned, they overturned our decision. We believed that the particular property was not in compliance. They were cited with a zoning violation, and that was subsequently overturned yesterday.
So the state code
The state code
would
is what
say
we
this is
went
by
to.
right.
Correct, but
Okay.
the city's zoning ordinance restricts it a little further.
Just tagging on the future issues, and the third condition, I understand what happens to it. It's not transferred to new owners, but the first sentence there, this CUP should not follow the title to the property where Miller Home will be located. I'm not sure what that means.
That's just referring to the 271 Riverside Drive. And just I realize I've only got the conditions listed there, but in your resolution that you would potentially adopt, that section does have a heading based on proceedings, findings of fact. Planning Commission either recommends approval or denial of the petition for a CUP at 271 Riverside Drive. So it is specific to this property. It's just,
Right, so if they go to another place, this doesn't follow though.
right.
Right, so I guess, this is really being picky, but that first sentence is, should they move? Should the petition,
It's what that phrase means, and we did run this through the city attorney. This CUP shall not follow title to the property. I see where you're coming from, where Miller Home will be located. Shall not follow title to 271 Riverside Drive, if you'd feel more comfortable with that.
It's almost as if it's planned move, but they're already there.
Yeah.
It's is located, would be correct.
I read this like it's specific to Miller Home for this specific use on this specific property, and any change to any of those.
That is the intent, yeah.
The
Right.
CUP is
Yeah.
no longer applicable. I don't know.
We could say shall not follow title to the property at 271 Riverside Drive, if you'd feel more comfortable with that.
I'd be curious about the parking, because that's been brought up. How many of your residents actually drive?
None.
Okay.
None of our current residents drive. Our parking consists of, Miller Home currently has 3 vehicles, one being a very large van. We are in the process of selling that, so that will be no longer needed soon, and then we'll only have 2 regular cars. And then during the day, myself and the program director are at Miller Home, so our 2 cars, and our childcare worker staff, and then we have volunteers and interns, but usually less than 3 at a time. Usually only 2. But we've tried to be cautious with the situation with parking, and in our initial meeting, parking was brought up as, hey, this probably is a concern. So as we have gotten settled in the house, we've been trying to be a little bit more cautious about the space that we're using, and we're going to continue to improve that.
How many visitors are allowed at one time? For one person, is there a?
Honestly, a lot of our girls, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. The majority of our girls actually all of them, have a place where they can go for weekend visits, for overnight visits, for home visits. So most visitation doesn't even occur at Miller Home.
Okay.
Yeah, I went by the other day and there were 7 vehicles there, including the van, and it was crowded. It was, and there was no violations. It's using the driveway and using on-street parking, but it was, and the neighbors had stakes up where their property was to not, because you can't park completely on the road there's not enough room. You have to park partly in the grass, which is, again, not violating anything, but it was definitely crowded. And that was a one-time visit. Doesn't mean it's always like that. And so what are the options for group homes? I'm assuming in R1, they wouldn't be considered even with the CUP, aside from discussions yesterday.
You mean as opposed to this being R2?
Yeah.
No, it would be the same.
So R1 would be,
You could
you could do it with
you
CUP.
could get a conditional use
Okay.
permit, yes.
And then up through the other residential, and then is there other designations where group homes are allowed outside of the residential?
Oh, you
Okay.
mean like by right?
I think once you get to the commercial districts, it's a violation.
Mhm. But it's a CUP in all the residential.
As far as I know.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll double check.
I just have a quick question for Mrs. Wicks. Just about your survey, just out of curiosity.
Come forward.
The survey the information presented to your neighbors and that sort of thing, that was a nice effort. Well done on that, organizing with your neighbors. But did you present them the narrative that Miller Home presented to the city at all?
We didn't
or-
have it available.
You didn't have it
No.
available?
I talked to Tom Martin. I talked to Rachel. I did
Yeah.
talk to the lovely lady. Oh, I forget Nicole. That's right. And just to find out about kind of what their vision was,
Mhm.
why Riverside Drive was a huge. Again, as we're talking about parking and all these things, it's like our neighbors and myself. We think about all this, and it's like shoving a round peg down a square hole. It's like, okay, parking's an issue. This is an issue, and we're making all these. These children have no place to play, you guys. If you see our lot there on 271, I mean, they're right up against our forest. My family owns that forest behind them. They have to go to Riverside Drive to play. I mean, Riverside Park to play, and yet they're isolated out here on Riverside Drive. So we didn't have the narrative that she presented to you. I had to find it out. We talked about it as volunteers of what we were so concerned in making sure everything was fair play for Miller Home and for us, and everything was equal. And we weren't biasing our people anyway. They could just speak their hearts. And so we decided what to put on the brochure, but we didn't have any of this information. And it would be so helpful if Miller Home had or will send out to each of the residents, here's what we are, here's why we're here. Because all these people know beforehand was just, we see these girls wandering around and there's obviously adults with them, but it's like, are they being babysat by someone? Is somebody having a big party? We don't know. So I'm proud of our neighborhood and our volunteers, because I feel like we did not bias them in any way. And we tried to keep this survey as tight as possible, as objective as possible. And I really feel like before you have some key information, which is Riverside residents don't want this. We're living what you're about to decide to make it official, but we've been living this. And if they were all sitting here, they would tell you this condition of saying it needs to stick with Miller Home is so important, because we do appreciate Miller Home, but we're scared to death that this is just going to get bigger and bigger and bigger, and we'll have tons of group homes, and it'll just change the spirit of our neighborhood, the strictly residential corridor. And we're not being divisive about that. It's so underdeveloped. I mean, you guys have been out there, you know that we really are undeveloped and isolated out there. And we want what's best for everyone, including Miller Home and ourselves. So, Did that answer it?
Mhm.
Sorry.
You can call her if you'd like. Yeah.
Does the commission have a specific
I
question?
asked if he had wanted to call her up.
What, she wanted to speak.
Yeah,
That
she-
was
No,
just-
I just wanted to say two things. One of the things that we did initially when we fixed up the information, we tried to make it as impartial as possible. And Bethany, the district attorney, said it was very, very fair. I mean, you didn't show impartiality to anything. So we just gave them the information. And then I also encouraged our neighbors, and so did Carrie, to go to them. We can't answer your questions. Please go to them. They're cordial, they're kind, they're nice. Please go talk to them. And so we have not in any way tried to, smother or encourage a certain ideal. And you should be able to see that through the survey, because there were yeses and there were nos. So I just wanted to make that very plain.
Thank you. So Rachel, the third condition, is that something that you added? Has this been kind of growing the conditions, kind of really thinking them through? Or is that something that was proffered immediately? How did that come about, the third condition? It seems to be very important.
That was something I added based on hearing those concerns from the neighbors. Yeah.
And the petitioners?
Yeah. Well, that was, I wrote that before we got that survey, but yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anybody have any other questions, or anybody want to make a motion?
I'll make a motion there, since I've been out there, you've been out to the area too, and looking at the survey, I would make a motion that this resolution be declined. That's my opinion. I can't vote for it.
All right, so we have a motion for declining this.
I'll second it.
So we're going to, any other comments before we vote? We're going to vote that this gets declined, and of course it does go to city council. So let's go ahead and move forward. As it's written, we're going to vote no. That's the motion. So all in favor of voting no, say aye.
Aye.
All for voting against the no motion, say aye. Aye. So that means it'll be a split vote.
Motion fails.
Yeah, motion
and
fails,
the
it's
only
split.
Alternative would be to recommend approval, and I assume that would be the same vote. So
Right, so it's a split vote, so we'll go to council that way.
Excuse me if I may. You can also come up with if you think that there's different conditions that make it more palatable to get it approved for those that are voting against it, you can do that. But you're right, otherwise you're in
Yeah.
a stalemate.
I think, and I understand why it would be voted against, and I'd probably say people understand why it'd be voted for. I think that third condition is really important. I know that we have two council members one who sent an email supporting it if that condition is there. And of course, the non-discriminatory language in this email, it's like, well, a lot of the things that you might not want in a neighborhood that people say I don't want are actually protected by right. So, I think this is a good solution to allow it. So I don't think that there's anything that we could change that would change the vote. I think it's probably best to be adjudicated in front of council. Any other thoughts?
No, I agree. It's sending it to council as is too ambiguous, or is it worth voting on the petition as it stands, and we would just be reversing our votes, but that's what would go to
Right.
council.
Right. I think it's a split vote either way.
It's a split vote.
Yeah.
I just don't want it to be,
does someone want to make a motion to approve?
it's a delicate matter.
Just to put it on the record that
Sure.
you tried both ways. Okay.
Conditional use permit as written.
And I would second that to approve it as written with these three conditions. So we'll go ahead and vote on that. All in favor of approving this, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All opposed, say nay.
Nay.
Wow, it's a split vote. It's going to go to council. with a
I
split
realize we
vote.
end up with the same thing, but I think coming to
I know what
council
you're
like
saying,
that,
yeah.
it's a delicate matter. We want to make sure there's no confusion.
What's important that council knows that it's a delicate matter and that the neighbors have spoken. I know that the neighbors care. I know that you had the conservation. I remember you coming to us on that, and it's a community that people care a lot about. I know people care about Miller Home too. So
Yeah.
With that, we'll send it to council with those words.
All right.
Thank you. All right. I do want to bring up, we don't have any other items to speak, but I do, we did get forwarded the calendar. So I wanted to kind of take a moment, the calendar for our planning commission meetings, to make sure that as it starts getting warmer, we're going to start taking vacations or having things come up, that we do communicate well about that, especially looking forward, because some people will be having things like in June and July, and there might be 3 or 4 of us that already have that. And we can actually help you all out a lot, I know, by letting you know, because you're going to have some petition comes up. Well, I want to hear it in June, and like, well, no one's here. So,
Sure, quorum is.
and I was going to
Present.
skip, but my vice chair, he left, so I couldn't skip today.
And I would almost just follow up on that, recommend that we get an email, just the calendar, and being asked to reply.
Yeah, that's a good
of
idea.
Known absences.
Yeah.
Because that kind of got buried.
Oh, you want to just identify on a list things you won't be able to.
So we can reply to you
Yeah.
and say, yes, in
Okay.
July, we'll not be here at that.
I caught it.
All be planning our vacations around the schedule, obviously, but
Yes, definitely.
That's why you planned yours, right?
Well, yes.
actually.
All right.
Thank you,
Anybody have
guys.
any other comments or anything before we?
Just one question about the comprehensive plan. I know that was one of the things that we discussed, I think last meeting or the meeting before last, and just didn't know what the, kind of, I guess, like what the duration or what the schedule is for that. Do we need to have that approved by a certain time or?
So we have one more work session to schedule with you, and then a final sort of, well, I guess it would be an open house and then a public hearing. So one work session and a public open house and a public hearing. So yes, that will be part of your upcoming calendar, and we'll communicate the dates on that because they most likely won't be your normal dates. But yeah, when we send out that full calendar, if you could let us know if there's any blocks of time that do not work for you, that would be super helpful as we get into scheduling those.
All right.
Thank you.
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All right. Well, we're adjourned. Thank you. Have a good day.